The clock just hit 2 p.m. and you're watching another live broadcast of Market View ERS Text Talk right here on Eswatini TV, brought to you in partnership with the Eswatini Revenue Service. I am Notile Sitole. Welcome to the program. We are still on the subject of provisional tax, which we kicked off last week, exploring what it is and who it applies to. And today we take that conversation just a step further, diving into the actual calculations. How is provisional tax determined? What is a basic amount and how do the installments work? Because the numbers matter, we'll be joined by the Eswatini Revenue Service to explain the second installment mechanism. But first, our business news. Let's fill you in with some of the latest in business, shall we? The Eswatini Standards Authority is facing challenges in effectively implementing standards across the country due to the misalignment of laws and policies within various organizations and entities. Many entities argue that their existing policies do not incorporate or recognize the standards set by the Eswatini Standards Authority, making enforcement quite difficult. The Minister of Commerce, Industry and Trade, Honorable Mangoba Khumalo, says government is working towards amending the law to strengthen the authority of Eswasa and enable it to enforce compliance more effectively.
Senators have raised concerns that the Eswatini Standards Authority is unable to fully execute its mandate due to weaknesses in the current regulatory framework and the misalignment of laws across various institutions, which continue to hamper effective enforcement. The Senate President questioned why products that have been declared substandard or unfit for use, including a certain brand of sanitary pads, remain on the market despite being found to fall below required standards. The Senate President asked why the Eswatini Standards Authority, as the country's standards regulator, is unable to enforce the removal of such products and protect consumers from low-quality goods.
Eswasa ngemkhandla motherboard leko ngekufuna kutheke kuye ngiva ungacishe ngathi ngisho lokwenziwa baka health. There are so many products that come into the country.
The policy organ never existed before the existence of SWASA. What happened to it? Does it still exist?
Is it possible to ngikhuluma for nembophane ngoba na environment ngalokuvendile thuna ISO nayo ubuka kwakhe ma standards na water mhlambe ubuka kwakhe standard na electricity
ngabelisa nje ngemathayi sibonile emathayi angena evena buya ngengwabale lamafela buya ku ungena kwala mathayi kwaba nemakhampani lamaningi la buya kumbe bomakhelwane lavala avaliswa ukuthi lamathayi laqhamuka lingeshe achieve and substandard.
Responding to these concerns raised by senators, the Minister for Commerce, Industry and Trade, Honorable Mangoba Khumalo, acknowledged the existing gaps in the law and said the ministry, in collaboration with the Eswatini Standards Authority, is working on amendments to strengthen the legal framework. Honorable Mangoba Khumalo stated that the proposed amendments to laws and policies will empower the authority with stronger enforcement powers, enabling it to effectively carry out its mandate and ensure compliance with national standards.
Attempt lumsabomthetho yendeka na 2023 uzebe ukuthi uzame ukuthi ube nematinyo, but vele it fell short, Mr. President, because rather than fix the situation, I think why went about worse, because kunale nkinga kwanyalo ukuthi njengoba mhlanga shito khona kwelo kwento i-department yethu ethiko khona lungelo lwenziwa ngiswasa and kunengelo lokuwa la mkhathini. So nyalo sifuna ukuphunga noma ukuthi kube clear ukuthi itiko leti-policy swasa kwenta implementation.
Meanwhile, Eswatini Standards Authority's Executive Director Ncamiso Mhlanga explained that the authority is not intended to take over responsibilities already assigned to other regulatory entities. He said instead it works in partnership with these institutions to ensure standards are implemented and maintained across all sectors. He emphasizes that the planned legal amendments are necessary to clarify the authority's mandate and provide it with the powers required to intervene and enforce standards when necessary. Reporting, Nelson Ngamandla, Vuminkosi Nzinisa, Mbabane.
The Eswatini Standards Authority requires 200 million emalangeni to establish a national laboratory and strengthen its operations in order to ensure the effective implementation of standards across the country. The Executive Director, Ncamiso Mhlanga, clarified that the requested funds are intended solely for infrastructure development and do not include the procurement of equipment. This was during a meeting with members of the Portfolio Committee under the Ministry of Commerce, Industry and Trade in Senate. The meeting is held at the Hilton Garden in Mbabane.
One of our mandate is to ensure that adequate testing facilities are available in the country. Hence, we have now seen that we need to establish a huge product that will do the actual testing locally of some of these products that we are producing in the country and products that are coming from other countries. So what then we are trying to do at this stage, we have designed a facility. Government has given us land around Matsapa, and we have designed a national facility where all the products could be tested. It costs about 200 million to build without the machinery. The machinery is quite expensive, and there will be need for both government and other investors, other development partners investing into the construction of that.
The Executive Director of Eswatini Standards Authority, Ncamiso Mhlanga, has also highlighted upcoming standards that the authority plans to develop in key sectors of the economy to enhance product quality, consumer safety and competitiveness in both local and international markets, stating that they are developing about 50 standards a year.
We have standards on agriculture, we have standards on electrical and energy sector. We've got standards that are talking to even our traditional life. For instance, right now I've asked Eswasa to work on the standard of emakano because we do have for the umcomboti. These are important things. You may look at them as light, but these are things that are consumed by people that we need to ensure safety. On vehicles, we are now working on EVs, electrical vehicles. How can we ensure that standards of such things are there? And we are also working with the energy regulator to ensure that standards pertaining to electricity are there, and standards that talks to issues of quality of fuels are there.
The Eswatini Standards Authority has requested the House of Senate to support the increase of its budget, as it currently receives about 12 million emalangeni, of which approximately 10 million emalangeni is used for operational costs. The Executive Director says this leaves them with only about 2 million emalangeni to support other critical activities, which is not enough. Reporting, Nelson Ngamandla, Vuminkosi Nzinisa, Mbabane.
The Minister for Commerce, Industry and Trade, Honorable Manqoba Khumalo, has once again raised concerns about the impact of mergers and acquisitions on market competition, workers and micro, small and medium enterprises, MSMEs. The Minister said government is taking steps, including amendments to relevant laws and policies to ensure that market dominance does not compromise the quality of goods and services, weaken fair competition or disadvantage workers and small businesses. He made these remarks during a meeting between the Ministry and the Senate Portfolio Committee held at the Hilton Garden in Mbabane. The Minister first mentioned these concerns during an engagement with the House of Assembly Portfolio Committee on Wednesday. The strategic meetings form part of the Ministry's efforts to update Parliament on the performance, challenges and achievements of its parastatals. Now that you're up to date with some of the latest in business, after the break, we'll speak to the Eswatini Revenue Service.
Le abuse of dominance kusho ukuthi mina mase ngithenge wonke lo mumfu lo bhakasinkwa sengingachaja nje imali yesinkwa lengithandzako ngoba senisithenga kimi ngedvana. So ke leli bandla leli lifanele ukuthi ligathe kwekuthi makuthengwana la ebusinessini kuba beteni le abuse ye dominance ngoba kube sekuaffecteka mina emthengi ngendlela lengasiyo. Lokunye lokwentekako makuthengwana ema mergers and acquisitions kubulala i-competition ngoba i-competition yenda siqiniseko ukuthi ema prices aka escalate out of control. Competition also ensures equality bese seya compromiseka uma sengathi nje ukuthi kude lomunye lo wenda lokulenkwendako sengakwenda ukuthi ni reduce mhlawumbe le quality lengifakako kuze ukuthi maximize my profits ngithengise for the same price kanti sengireduce le quality. Ngilokunye ke lokwentekako makunema mergers and acquisitions kuba nema disadvantages lokhanza ukuthi atholwa ngema employees. Siyathengana mase sithengene lapha bantu sebalahlekelwa ngumsebenzi ngetindlela etingekho emthethweni noma tisemthethweni but letingasi fair.
Right, and we've just heard that from the Minister for Commerce, Industry and Trade, Honorable Manqoba Khumalo, expressing concerns about the impact of mergers and acquisitions on market competition. After this, we'll speak to the Eswatini Revenue Service.
Those that
are in pain must forget all the problems they have. Because the things of the earth have got no answer. But the answer that we have is all morning. When I'm preaching here, I'm preaching to myself. I receive the Holy Spirit.
I declare that a turnaround is coming my way.
Turnaround is coming in my life.
Welcome back, and moving on with the program. It is that time of the year when most taxpayers are preparing to close their tax year rather. Last week we started on the conversation about provisional tax, and today the conversation continues. Manager Taxpayer Education and Information Cebolenkosi Mahlalela, Manager Marketing and Communications Duduzo Dlamini, both in the studio to provide expert insights and answers to your questions on provisional tax compliance, calculations and the second installment mechanism. Good afternoon to you both. Thank you very much for your time to do so. I'll start with you. You were here last week. We're building on from that in the conversation today. How, again, did we define provisional tax?
Thanks, Notsile. Good afternoon to you and the viewers, and thanks for having us once again here at studio to talk anything ERS and tax matters. So last week we did mention that provisional tax is not a new tax line, yet is a prepayment for your income tax, which is due for the filing season. So as we know that soon we'll be starting our campaign for our filing season for this year, so which means before you are able to proceed to pay for your filing season, you should have done the provisional tax, where basically there's an estimate, and then on top of that you need to make a payment for you to be able to cover for a provisional tax. We also highlighted who are supposed to pay, which is your companies, your directors, your sole traders, your SMEs, and also not leaving presumptive tax regime, which we have been talking about.
Right. Thank you, Nkosicebo. I remember asking you last week if there's a minimum that one is expected to pay for provisional tax, and you did say you're going to come back and then just, highlight the calculations. So please do guide us on how exactly to calculate provisional tax.
Okay, good afternoon, Notsile. Good afternoon to our viewers as well. It's always a pleasure for us to be in this program. Definitely, we are continuing on the conversation. Yes, I remember last week we touched on the hashtag Begela. Definitely. So yes, we want to get deeper into the calculations, but I just want to make a disclaimer. I don't want our clients to be intimidated in any means. All these calculations and the formulas and everything is embedded into the system, which is tax ease. But we want them to appreciate how we came up with the estimates. So with provisional tax, we use what we call basic amount. And by basic amount, we are referring to the taxable income as assessed by the Commissioner General for maybe last year's income or any latest previous year or tax year. So we use that taxable income for the previous year. In terms of the first installment, we then apply the normal tax rates, which in our case is 25%. And then we take that amount, we take 50% of that amount, and we raise or we estimate your first installment. So our clients will recall that when they were adhering or administering their first installment, they went into tax ease and they found an amount. That amount is 50% of the tax for last year. And you have a chance to either agree with the commissioner's estimate or deviate, because you are the one who's very close to your operations and you know which direction your company or your business is taking. But in you deviating from that estimate, we want you to appreciate and know that we will expect that probably you'll upload some supporting documents to inform your deviation. And then now coming to the second installment, we calculate it in terms of, we expect that, we did highlight last week that second installment is due at the last or on the last day of your balance month. And in our case, it will be 30 June 2026. So by June, we expect that you already know if you are at a loss or at a profit. You already know kind of like the figures, you already have drafts, financials. So we expect that you will estimate yourself. So with the second installment, you will not find any figure raised for you in tax ease. It's open, because we want you to capture the taxable income. So you will capture your profit in essence in the system. And then what the system will do, it will apply the tax rates. In our case, we said it's 25%. And then it will then also check how much did you pay in terms of your first installment. Then the difference will be what is due to be paid in terms of your second installment. That's how we calculate provisional tax. We also highlighted on a component which we refer to as third installment. Really, this one is only relevant if there are differences and you feel I want to top up before I actually file my annual income tax return. That's how we do the calculations.
Thank you, Klebo. That was a mouthful. Thank you so much. Informative, though. Nduduzo, coming to you, on the second installment, why is it important for clients to go into the tax ease platform and file this obligation?
All right, thanks, Notsile. In fact, all the installments are important, but the second one, as Tsabo has highlighted, this one forms part of your income annual tax, which the clients will be paying soon. So without you doing those calculations, firstly, what we have noticed from the previous year is that we would get clients calling us complaining that they are not able to file for their annual income tax. So this one is quite important, because before you are able to do that, you should have been able to go into tax ease, put your estimate, and then pay, so that once the annual income tax starts, you are able to then continue to file. So, but in other ways, all the other installments are important. It's just that this one then affects your annual income tax.
Okay, Tsebo, back to you. Nduduzo has mentioned the importance of the second installment. Then one would want to ask if there's any penalties associated to it.
Okay, yeah, definitely there will be some penalties. I also just want to highlight that I know some clients, when we talk about provisional tax, they feel there's some double taxation that is happening. We did highlight last week that we will use your provisional tax to credit your income tax account. So when you file your income tax return, that amount that you've paid will set off your income tax. So we have not been double taxed. Coming back to the penalties, we do have penalties on provisional tax, one of which we refer to as late payment penalty. It is charged at 20% of the amount provisional tax that you should have paid. So this applies to both provisional taxes, meaning your first installment as well as your second installment. If you somehow do not pay your provisional tax, you will be charged this late payment penalty. And then there's this one, Notile, it's referred to as underestimation penalty. It's kind of a new concept. It's always been there in the tax law, but the ERS has not been, applying it until last year, which is 2025. And we really want our clients to appreciate the existence of this penalty. Underestimation penalty works in such a way that it is charged at the final estimation of taxable income less than the relevant basic amount and less than 90%. So what we mean by underestimation penalty is that two conditions should exist for it to be charged. One of which, your final estimation that you make, which introducer has touched on during your second installment, if it's below your basic amount, which we've already highlighted that is your taxable income for last year. Mm-hmm. And the next condition is that if this taxable income that you are raising or your basic amount that you are raising is below 90% of your actual taxable income, which you'll eventually file when you're filing your income tax, then you will be charged an underestimation penalty. Right. So it is between these two regions. So we do encourage our clients to estimate accurately. You either agree with the Commissioner's basic for last year, or if you know that, I'm really deviating, ensure that you are not below 90% of the eventual that you will then file with your income tax. And the 20% that we charge with this penalty, it's charged on the difference between the tax that the tax of the amount that you've declared and one of the lesser between the tax on the 90% or tax of the basic. So really we then charge 20% between those two. So we really would like to encourage our clients to ensure that you pause and you are sure. In the past, we'd have clients just write a zero when it comes to provisional tax. Yet when you now file your annual income tax, it's an amount. Yeah. So please ensure that you are not found in this position, because we've already configured that in the system as per the ambits of the law, and ensure that you estimate accurately. We still refer to it as an estimate, because after all, you have not yet closed your tax year.
Estimate accurately, be sure to make use of the TaxEase platform. Briefly, June 30 is around the corner. What will be your reminders to our clients and taxpayers?
My biggest reminder to our clients is that do not wait for the deadline. Okay. Don't wait until it is too late. The fact that we've already started on the conversation, actually we do appreciate our clients who are seeing the traction, who are seeing the reaction. Clients are calling in wanting to be compliant even before the 30th of June. Would like to encourage everyone to take advantage of this opportunity and file on time. Then to all employers, we like to remind them that PAYE return was due the 7th, but since we still have the grace period of up until the 14th of June, please ensure that you file and pay your pay as you earn.
June 14th being over the weekend. Actually.
Yeah, it's over the weekend, so yeah, ensure that you file.
Final comments from you from a communications perspective.
Thanks. Just to highlight that all this information we're talking about, it is available on our website. They can visit us at www.ers.org.za. Should you need any information, do email us at info@ers.org.za, or they can check our social media pages at Eswatini Revenue Service. We are sharing this information. Otherwise, we are happy to assist you. They can also visit our service centers should they need any information. Thank you.
Thank you very much to you both, Nkosi Matlalela and Duduzo Dlamini, both from the ERS, and we were talking the provisional tax compliance calculations. The message is one, just begela. Yeah. The show continues after this.
To all the viewers of Eswatini TV in the kingdom and beyond. Eswatini TV is regulated by the Eswatini Communications Commission through the Broadcasting Code and Broadcasting Guidelines. Under these instruments, the station commits to broadcasting information and news that have been fact-checked, programs and content in respectful language with no elements of hate speech, violence or sexual activity. If you hear any unsuitable content on this channel, you have a right to voice your complaints with the station management. Should you not be satisfied with the response or action taken, you can escalate your matter to the Communications Commission at PO Box 7811 Babani. Call 2406 7000 or send an email to info@escom.org.za. For more information, visit www.escom.org.za.
Welcome back. In-house economist Anela Sibia joins us virtually for some of the latest in markets. Mr. Sibia, just 4 minutes to go. How are markets reacting this fourth trading day for the week?
Thank you, Notsile. Good afternoon to you, and also good afternoon to the viewers. So in terms of markets, what we are seeing is the continued volatility that is largely driven by the war between Iran and Israel and the US. So what we're seeing in the US is the Dow Jones Industrial Average is down 953 points, and the Nasdaq Composite Index is down 509 points. And the S&P 500 is down 1,119 points. Now, that is due to the fact that, markets are pricing in that volatility in the Middle East, and then also there is a bit of some fatigue around the AI expenditures there. And then coming into the Eurozone market, with London basically flatlining at 87.08, the DAX up 67.75 points, and the CAC 40 up 60.01 points in today's trade. Now, that is regardless of the fact that we've seen the ECB hike interest rates, but given that this has been a long time coming, markets already priced that into their valuation. So we're seeing those slight changes in markets, in trades today, but otherwise it's a general flat line in the Eurozone markets. And then coming into Asia, what we are seeing there is the Nikkei just basically buying the dip below those all-time highs that we are seeing, that we saw of the 67,000 that we saw on Tuesday. And then in Hang Seng, we're seeing a loss of 158 points. And then in Shanghai, we are seeing a loss of 6.21 points. Now, that is largely driven by those geopolitical tensions, because we've seen the US firing into Iran, and then Iran also firing into Israel as well. And then coming into South Africa, again, South Africa is relatively moot, just gaining 125 points in today's trade, but staying below that 111,000 mark. And then into Eswatini, we've seen a couple of trades in Nedbank and also in the Royal Eswatini Sugar Corporation there, propping up the Eswatini Osha Index to 501.24 points, which is up 1.64 percentage points today. And then in terms of gold is coming down closer to the 4,000 mark, while Brent crude is also just subdued around the 91.76 mark. Now, that means markets are really pricing in closer movements towards the ceasefire. And then also we are seeing the fact that interest rates are really looking to climb out, as we've seen the sticky inflation in the US. In terms of currencies, the Langen is relatively stronger against the dollar, the euro, and also against the Japanese yen. But it must be said that we are still within some very volatile, some very weaker zones there across all three major currencies. Thank you, Nutsile.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Bia, for your analysis. That was in-house economist Anela Sibia sharing insights on the day's trade. Otherwise, this has been Market View ERS Text Talk. Thank you again for your company. Let's meet next time. Bye-bye.